And it's also in the framing as well. So, I mean, I was thinking, this story about the girl who was kind of helped by the Muslim couple. I mean, imagine if it was like a Daily Mail headline or something, a drunk teenager kidnapped by a Muslim couple or something, and rescued by her parents the morning after. So, I mean, it's important for us to have, being involved in our own narratives about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you really made a good point there, because the narrative, there's two things. One is kind of the visual framing, and the other is a narrative. But every visual framing is kind of is based on, bound by a narrative, isn't it? So you might see an image, but the tagline describing the image, of course, informs you what the image is about. If the tagline is skewed, contorted, it's going to affect your perception of the. So both have to be in place. Reminds me, in fact, of the day of Uhud. When Abu Sufyan was kind of exultant, and he was making these, and he was saying, he says, "Afikum Muhammad, is Muhammad amongst you?" Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And the Prophet was there, and he said to Sahaba, he says, "La tujibuhu, don't answer him." It's about
controlling the narrative.
Control the narrative. That's it. Don't answer him. Don't answer him. And then he says, "Afikum Abu Quhafa, is Abu Bakr amongst you?" And the Prophet says, "La tujibu, don't answer him." Then he says, "Afikum Ibn al-Khattab, is Umar amongst you?" He says, "La tujibu, don't answer him." And then Abu Sufyan says, "U'lu Hubal, how high is Hubal?" What the Prophet say? "Ajibuhu, now answer him." Now Allah is concerned. Now answer him. And I just found that really beautiful.
Allahu a'la wa ajal.
Allah, that's it. And then Umar says, فَمَاذَا نَقُولُ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ, what do we say, Ya Rasulullah? And the Prophet says, say, قُل Allahu a'la wa ajal. And the Prophet is telling them, this is what your narrative should be. And so therefore it's very powerful. We have a responsibility to really control our own narrative.
Not to react to someone else's.
No, exactly. Because that's just disempowering. You empower yourself by formulating your own narrative. I think people like Martin Luther King was quite prominent in this respect, because he capitalized on that very important year of 1955, during the horrific murder of Emmett Till. And by the way, that's all dehumanization, isn't it? What led to someone committing such an act of brutality on an innocent child? It has to be years and years of programs. So what's happening is that, you mentioned to rehumanize. I tell you why it's that hard. It requires much more effort. Because for you to rehumanize, you have to unpeel and unpeel and unpeel layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of stereotyping before you get to the human being in the frame. You see, because with all of that stereotyping and your coloring and your messing around, there's going to be, it's going to leave such an impression on a person's mental psyche that this person isn't fully human like me. But to get to a point where you can at least see the human being in the frame is a very, very big thing. And so, and people like also, because the year was important, because you had, you had Rosa Parks, same year, Montgomery bus boycott, you had Emmett Till, same year. But he capitalized on that to really restructure a narrative. And there's a lot of African Americans, in fact, who were not supportive of the NAACP, of his Southern Baptist movement. But that kind of the sense of energy and a sense of narrative making really turned them, I think, in favor of that. And the same, in some respects, could be used as an example for the Holocaust.
Speaking of Emmett Till, it reminded. I was speaking about this the other day about how since his death and mutilation became a kind of icon for the civil rights struggle. Likewise in Syria, Hamza Ali Khatib, a 13-year-old who was abducted by the secret police and tortured and mutilated, and all kinds of horrific mutilation happened on him. He was, used as an icon for and sparked waves and waves of protests and ultimately, the Syrian revolution as well.
That's true.
And, partly you have no choice. You have no choice but to try and react and try to do something to,
it's true.
Not avenge, but kind of shine a light on this.
Exactly. People like Ida B. Wells. I mean, this is before. Ida B. Wells was like the beginning, I think, of the 20th century. These were like, Ida B. Wells was amazing, because what she would do is that she would go around to places where black men had been lynched. and she would just simply go there and report on the stories, describe those people, and she had her own kind of small newspaper, you know. But as a kind of, I'm sure she had people supporting her, but she's known as being one of the first ones that went to make the people aware of the horrific nature of lynching. Unscripted.